actually starting with our home page is actually it's what's called a role center, and this is a predefined view that is, in this case, towards a production manager, that gives the sort of things that that production manager needs at their fingertips at the start of the day. So while this is a predefined out-of-the-box view, you've always got the options, if you look top right, to be able to personalize this page. And this is actually SharePoint content, so any SharePoint information that you use, you can actually draw onto the dashboard here as well as things like Excel, Word documents, etc. So it's a very flexible area. The key benefit here is that you've really got a predefined view that takes you straight into the system, straight looking at the sort of things that you need to see. So you will start to see in here, for example, a set of indicators straight away. So we've got things like on-time production rates, actual versus planned costs, defect ratios, etc. And again, all the time we have against these the ability to have values, statuses and indicators to those. We can also see some indicators on the right-hand side here. So where we see business indicators, for example, you can see here we have production efficiency, and I can actually choose to drill down into a lower level there. So here I'm actually looking at production efficiency, and I'm doing that, looking at that by actual item groups. But it could be, of course, work centres, work cells, etc. that we want to drill and see that information. The way that we can actually do that, we can actually let the end user actually add their own indicators in here through the Add Indicators option. It brings up this little dialog box. And from there, what I can do is I can choose the area of the system that I would actually like to draw data from. So I can choose a production cube in this first instance. And from there, we'll be able to select a series of different indicators. Again, these are indicators that are provided out of the box, but you've always got the ability to actually customize these. So if you want to add your own indicators, if you want to modify existing indicators, you can do so using standard Microsoft tool sets to do so. So here, for example, the production efficiency was one we were just looking at, but you'll also see defect ratios, WIP levels, costs for versus actual versus estimates, and so on. So you've got a good starting point there with a whole series of different indicators that you can use to actually draw onto your own homepage or dashboard. You can choose how you want to view that. So we can choose to look at it this month versus last month, or we can do it this year versus last year, etc. Lots of different options there that you can choose to say how you'd actually like to view this business indicator on your dashboard itself. Once we've chosen the periods we want to compare, we can then actually choose how we want to drill down into that. So here, for example, I might be wanting to look at this by the resource. So show me the production efficiency by the resource, and perhaps it's the resource site that we're actually interested in. So essentially, we're choosing lots of different levels there. It's what Microsoft refers to as self-service business intelligence. The self-service bit is really that you've got the choice. You can put the indicators that you want to see onto your own dashboard immediately. So that's how we use those. You're also seeing this particular role center, we've got lots of charting activities, so we've got attendance, because of course we can use the system for things like time and attendance. We also have shop floor control and manufacturing execution elements to the system, where people can basically scan barcodes into the business onto particular jobs, and we can be recording time immediately against those as we go through. Also to the right here, we'll see a series of activities or indicators. These are actually cues to indicate a workload to achieve. So for example, here we can see that there are 276, quite a bit in my test data here, of delayed production orders. And we'll also see a bit of an icon against that as well, a warning triangle. That's because we've set a threshold against this particular indicator. Now it's not just telling me, of course, that there are 276 delayed orders. What I can actually do is hold my cursor over that and actually drill into the data underneath that as well. So clicking into it, it takes me through to those 276 delayed production orders directly. And I can start actioning those from a list. This view now straight away shows us, again, very much familiar with the Microsoft Office suite of products. You have a series of buttons across the top, all very graphical in their organization. We also see down to the right here, we have an area called fact boxes. That again is just giving us instant information that as we click down the list, we'll see the fact boxes actually changing and updating us with more information. So it's really all about having the right information at our fingertips as we navigate through. Now I'm going to go back to our home page, our role center, and I just use the back button, top left-hand corner there to navigate through. So again, that's like going back and forward in Internet Explorer. You've got a drop-down list there that gives you a history of pages that you've been to previously and so forth. So lots of charting in this. We're going to look at capacity loading a little bit later on in scheduling. So this is just giving us a clue here. We've got a bit of a chart that shows our capacity, and I can see that I am over capacity, and we'll refer back to that later on as well. If I roll down this page, you'll see that what we've also got is an area for my links. Essentially, you can think of that as being really a way of actually setting up a whole load of shortcuts. That's probably the best way to think of that. So I can have shortcuts into different parts of the system, or it might be that they are shortcuts into, for example, different websites that you refer to on a regular basis. It's just about putting things at the right place for you. Going below that, we'll also see that we've got things like a production team discussion board in here, and also a production team documents area. So these are using SharePoint elements to actually draw additional functionality and additional features to our home page. So for example, we've got an area here for production team documents. I can upload those documents to this particular site just using the add documents function. I can version control those. I can put approval for workflow on those, so we're getting them signed off as documents in the correct manner, all electronically, of course. And I can also put things like the ability to actually issue those documents out for change, so nobody else can change them while I'm changing them effectively. So a lot of control areas around that, and that's just using standard SharePoint functionality but drawing it together into the AX environment here. The final section on our role center is the work list, the unified work list, which essentially is an area where we're getting messages from the system. So these could be alerts that we've set up. It could be workflow actions, and I'll come back to workflow a little bit later, but it could be workflow actions that have been assigned to us. So if we need to approve a new product or approve a change, perhaps an engineering change, then I'll see those actions actually appearing within my work list. Now those can also be repeated as well in Outlook. So if I'm sent an alert, it can be to Outlook, and as well as showing on here. If I have an approval task, I would see it in here, and again potentially in Outlook as well if I set it up to do so. So that just gives us an introduction really to the screens that we see and the role centers in question.